Hey, what's up? Welcome to today's video. This is the eyeshadow palette tag. No one tagged me, but that's okay because I just wanted to do it anyways. So I first saw a YouTuber named Lauren May Beauty do this video. She's what gave me the idea to do it. I'm gonna link her channel below as well as her videos, so go check it out. And I know that some other YouTubers have done it as well. So basically there's a bunch of questions like show your this, that, and the other palette. So the first prompt is show your newest palette and your oldest palette. So my newest palette is still in the box. This is from Smashbox. I got this palette in a BoxyCharm. So the packaging is really cool. I think this is really neat that you get, like, this is a little eyeliner right here. So it looks interesting, it looks fun until you take away these three shades. So if I like cover that up, now it's like the most neutral palette ever. So I just don't really need it. So this I'm saving for a future giveaway, so it's going back in the box. Then my oldest palette, this one was kind of tricky just because I don't really have any palettes that are more than like 2-3 years old, but I think that this is the oldest one I have. This is the Fenty Beauty Galaxy eyeshadow palette. Now, I first bought this palette, saw it, and I was just like, ooh, it's so pretty. It's all shimmers. And then I got it, and I was like, oh, it's all shimmers. It's not really a palette that I've ever been able to do a full look on, but I've had it for a long time. It's kind of broken, as you can see. So then we've got your most expensive palette and your most affordable palette. I think my most expensive palette is probably my Bloodlust palette from Jeffree Star. We all know about Miss Bloodlust here. She's stunning, she's beautiful, very elaborate packaging. This is such a nice palette. It is like 50 something dollars. No regrets though. I love it. It's beautiful. It's such a nice palette, really nice quality shadows. It's great. My most affordable palette, now let me just, these are all $1 eyeshadow palettes. All of these palettes I got on shopmissa.com. I have tried all of these. Some of them I like, some of them I really don't like. I would say the Amuse shadows are the best. I tried out this little 9-pan palette in my Shop Miss A haul video. I also have this little 5-pan palette from Amuse. The color story is a little wonky, but the shadows are like decent quality, they blend, they get the job done. So if you're looking for an eyeshadow palette from Shop Miss A, like a $1 eyeshadow palette, I would go with Amuse. So this one's a little tricky because there's show your everyday palette, but there's also show your most used palette. So I feel like those two could go hand in hand. But the one that I am going to highlight, this Moira Glow and Gleam eyeshadow palette. I have this palette from them. I also have another palette. Their eyeshadows are really nice, and the brand is so affordable. What I love about this palette in particular is just the color story. I feel like it's very balanced. The shimmers in this palette are fantastic. So are the mattes. So I would say this is a good everyday kind of a palette, and I feel like the brand Moira doesn't get enough love. So that would be my pick for everyday palette. So then my most colorful eyeshadow palette would probably be this Bretman Rock Jungle Rock eyeshadow palette. I think that this palette is beautiful. I haven't used it yet. It still has the protective thing taped to it, so I probably need to dive into this palette pretty soon. But then it's show your smallest palette and your biggest palette. I have a lot of small palettes, but I think that this little eyeshadow trio from Ulta is probably my smallest one. It's like the perfect little trio combo. So you have this big side over here. This is your shimmer shade. Then you have a lighter matte and a deeper matte. All of the colors complement each other well. So this one is just like perfect for travel. I'm always looking for little palettes like this that make for an easy eye look, takes all the guesswork out of it. Then your largest palette, as far as like the physical size of it, my largest palette is probably my Bloodlust palette. She definitely takes up the most room, but this I believe is an 18-pan shadow palette. Yeah, because I didn't really want to double dip. I wanted to also show that I have this. This is from Makeup Revolution. I got this actually for literally like $5. It was like Ross or TJ Maxx or something like that. And this eyeshadow palette has 30 shadows in it. Now these pans are really, really tiny, but I'm pretty sure this palette has the most shadows out of any other palette that I own. Like I have a couple of 24 pan shadow palettes. This one has 30, which is a lot. I've used this palette just a couple of times. It's a nice little palette. It's just, you know, nothing too terribly exciting, but I would say that's probably the most shadows in a palette, so it's kind of the biggest palette. Show a palette worth the hype and show a palette not worth the hype. Oh boy, here we go. Controversies start now. So the palette that I'm gonna say is worth the hype is my Anastasia Beverly Hills Norvina palette. She is stunning and well loved, as you can see. Now, I don't know that there was a ton of hype around this palette specifically, but I think just ABH palettes in general, especially this style of palette that they release. I also have their Modern Renaissance palette and their Soft Glam palette. I just don't use those palettes as much as I use this one. So I would say that this palette and ABH palettes in general are definitely worth the hype. They perform and they're just stunning. Like, let me swatch a couple of these shimmers, because the shimmers in this palette, y'all, oh my god, I live, honestly. Beautiful. And I really like all of my ABH palettes. I think those are the only three that I have, is Norvina, Modern Renaissance, and Soft Glam. But that's really all you need, girl. I probably can get rid of the rest of my palettes and just keep those three and be happy forever, if I'm just being honest. Okay, palette that's not worth the hype. I'm gonna really need you guys to hear me out on this one, okay? I'm gonna remind you that all opinions expressed in this video are my own. And if the palette that I choose, if this is like your all-time favorite palette of forever, that is great. I am so happy about that. This just for me, personally, me the person, just me, just the one single person right here, it was not worth the hype. Just hear me out, okay? Just hear me out. Listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on this palette by any means whatsoever. It's a great palette. The packaging, OMFG. I mean, what more could you want from an experience of a product, right? The color story it's interesting. And I think that that's the biggest issue that I have with this palette, is just that, again, for me personally, it's just kind of all over the place. And as much as I love this palette, every time I think about trying to use it, it's just hard for me to piece together a fun look. And I end up kind of just giving up and going with something else. And I mean, I know that they kind of broke it up to where like this top row is a great everyday thing. Then, you know, just the rest of the color story is kind of just not cohesive enough for me personally to figure something out with. And the Bloodlust palette, this is just a color story that I feel like I'm able to piece things together with better. And I think a big reason why this one is just not worth the hype for me is because this palette was $52 or $54, something like that. And after tax and shipping, I'm pretty sure I paid like $70 for this. One thing that I will say, like, as far as this palette goes, they were really criticized for the documentary being just like this big, elaborate commercial, basically. Like it was all just this marketing, advertising scheme. I just don't really think that's very fair. I really enjoyed the documentary series. I thought it was very entertaining. I think that Jeffree is very entertaining, and I think Shane is very entertaining, and together it was just all that much more entertaining. So I really enjoyed the documentary. Obviously, the advertising and the marketing was a definite side effect of that documentary series. And honestly, I think that that's why I bought this palette. I didn't buy it because I was like, oh, this is such a usable palette that I'll get so much use out of. I bought it because I really enjoyed the series, and it was just like the must-have item of that time, and it was the biggest makeup launch in the industry ever, so I'm not mad that I have it. I mean, I still like the palette. I just would say that for how much I paid for it, the fact that I don't get a whole lot of use out of it, everything considered, it's just not worth the hype for me personally. For me, it's just not the tea. So no shade. Show your palette with the best memory. Okay. And again, I'm not trying to start any scandals or anything, but this is the Tati Beauty palette. Here's the thing about this palette. I really never use this palette. I love Tati. I have been watching her channel for so long, and I've learned so much from her. And this is a gorgeous, stunning palette. It's a very usable, very wearable palette, but I just don't ever reach for it, to be completely honest. So I'm attaching this palette to the sentimental value that I have for Miss Tati Westbrook herself. Now, this palette does have, like, the shimmers in this palette are so nice. Oh my gosh, they're just so soft. My issue, and the reason that I just don't ever use this one though, is because it's a little warm. And y'all know I'm a cool tone girl. But yeah, so I mean, they're stunning. This is definitely one that's like a good utility. Like, there's just a lot that you can reach for it for. Obviously, you can do a bunch of looks. Like, the glitter is really nice. Woo! As far as memory goes, the first video I ever made on my channel was reviewing this palette and the Tati Blendiful. Now, don't go scrambling around on my channel page and try to find that video or anything, because it is privated. It was the very first video that I ever posted. It was like way too long and I just rambled through the whole thing. And so there's a memory that I can attach to this one. It is the palette. It is the item that jump-started my channel, and my YouTube journey would not be happening at all if it weren't for Tati. So I love her. I love this palette. I need to start using it more. We're getting there. Show your favorite palette from a favorite brand. If you've been watching my channel, you can probably guess what the brand is. So this is the Fenty Beauty Snap Shadows. The one that I'm picking on its own is the number 2 Cool Neutrals palette. And this is the palette that I used today, actually. Never mind this eye. Things got really crazy over there. We're just gonna kind of... It is a snap shadow, so the whole thing is that they like snap together. So my favorite snap combo from Fenty is the 2 Cool Neutrals and then the 4 Roses. I wore this in a video the other day and a bunch of you guys really liked it. What I really love about this one is there's like different textures of shimmers in this palette. So let me swatch them for you. So this one's kind of just like your general normal metallic. This one is almost a pressed glitter, but not quite. And then this one is a metallic with a slight bit of glitter in it. So it's kind of like a combo of the texture of these two. But I also have, one, which is the True Neutrals, also really great. And then I also have 6, which is the smoky one. So I have those 4 snap shadows. I love all 4 of them. I've used all 4 of them. They're all 4 extremely fantastic. The very last one is show your most used palette. Now this one might surprise you guys. It surprised me, but I would say that my most used palette is this one from Tarte. This is the High Tides and Good Vibes palette. I just love this palette. So the layout is really nice. You've got these 4 up here in the corner. Those are your neutrals. Those are like your kind of everyday go-tos. And then you've got some fun colors happening over here. And then all 4 of these on the diagonal are pressed glitters. And these pressed glitters are really nice as well. Woo, pretty. The other one that would maybe be most used would be my Moira palette. This was kind of the 2 that I went back and forth on. There was that like most everyday palette and then your most used palette. I've had this one longer, so I would say that I've probably used this one a lot more. All right, well, that is my palette tag. Let me guys know what you think. What would be your picks for the tags? And what is your favorite eyeshadow palette, or what's your most used eyeshadow palette? Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Don't forget to thumbs up this video and subscribe to my channel before you go. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!